AD, Member of Parliament for St. Elizabeth Northeastern, Mr. Delroy Slowly, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Justice, Mrs. Grace Ann Stewart McFarlane, Principal Director of the Social Justice Division, Ms. Jamie Ann Chevans, Senior Director and Directors of the Ministry of Justice, other distinguished guests, members of the Parish of St. Elizabeth, members of the media, and those viewing on the Ministry's YouTube channel, Ministry of Justice Jamaica. Good afternoon. Good afternoon again, everybody. Yes, wonderful day to be alive. I am Archibald Gordon, and I will be your moderator for today. Welcome to the first in a series of town hall meetings that will be executed by the Social Justice Division of the Ministry of Justice as part of the Justice for All Away tour. The Social Justice Division of the Ministry of Justice was established in September 2023 and is now the umbrella division of the alternative justice services offered by the ministry. That includes child diversion, victim services, and restorative justice, and we'll learn a little bit more about what those phrases mean throughout the afternoon. Along with these justice services, this afternoon you will be able to access legal aid, expungement, and information on estate management from the Administrator General's Department. As is customary, we'll begin with a word of prayer. So let me now invite Reverend Summerfield, Parish Officer for St. Elizabeth, forward to share that word of prayer with us and set us off on the right path.
Good afternoon, everyone. May I just invite us all to stand as we look to the Lord in prayer. Lord, we come to you this afternoon with a heart of gratitude and praise. We honor you because you are the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah. Today we gather as your people, God, on one ground. Despite our differences, Father, we are one in your sight. I pray, God, it is your will that we gather today in this evening as a family to discuss and just to share information relevant, oh God, to your kingdom, and just to bring a unity in our parish, St. Elizabeth. Fill our hearts of humankind with fire, your fire of love, mercy, joy, as we spread the word of justice across every platform. I pray, God, today that you will just have your way. Let everything that will be said to the glory and honor of your name. I pray every segment of this program, Father, my God, will just bring glory to your name. Thank you, God. Bless our moderator, bless our ministers and every agency that is present today, Father. We ask that you will continue to keep us as we spread and bring unity in our island, Jamaica. Thank you, and we say amen in Jesus' name.
Thank you, Reverend Summerfield. So again, I just want to remind people that there are a lot of free seats at the front. We're asking you to come forward a little bit. You know, leave the seats at the back for the people who are late. You're all early. So we want to see you filling those seats for us. Just please come forward again a little bit. I now invite Principal Director of the Social Justice Division, Ms. Jamie Ann Chevans, to offer the formal welcome and give an overview of the work of the Social Justice Division. Please make her welcome.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. I just wanted to say it's hot, and as you can see, it's showing on my face, but at the same time, so familiar to me. All of my summers, my Easters, my Christmases were spent in St. Elizabeth because my family hails from the South Side, more specifically Burn Savannah. So all who know Burn Savannah with the robin mangoes, yes, that was my summer, as well as Middle Quarters or Shrimp Country. Right, so it is a pleasure and an honor for me to be here representing what I call home. Right, so once again, good afternoon. it's a pleasure to welcome you all here today for us to have a discussion on around accessing justice and the services that the Ministry of Justice is offering to the citizens of our country for no cost. That is free of cost. So I'd first like to say welcome to the Minister of Justice, the Honorable Delroy Chuck, KCMP, Custos Rotolorum of St. Elizabeth, Beryl Rochester, Member of Parliament for Northwestern St. Elizabeth, Mr. Delroy Slowly, Mayor of St. Elizabeth, Mr. Richard Solomon, Superintendent of Police for St. Elizabeth, Mr. Coleridge Minto, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Justice, Mrs. Grace Ann Stewart McFarlane, Senior Director for Policy and Restorative Justice Division. I don't know if I got that correct, and it's my ministry, so forgive me. I'm a bit nervous. Miss Renee Oliphant. To all our residents of the parish of St. Elizabeth, the members of the Ministry of Justice team from the Child Diversion, Restorative Justice and Victim Services branch, which are here with us today, members of the media, viewers on our YouTube channel, Ministry of Justice Jamaica, good afternoon. Once again, the pleasure is all mine to welcome each and every one of you to the first event of our Justice for All Away tour. The tour was conceptualized to increase public awareness of the ministry's alternative justice services, as well as to allow for the ministry to directly communicate with the communities that we are seeking to change. So the primary objectives of the tour is to provide our citizens with information about their legal rights and responsibilities in a forum that allows them to engage with experts, to creatively share simplified legal information to our high school students across the island, and create greater awareness of our justice services amongst them. To raise awareness about the importance of accessing justice and the legal system amongst the general public, and of course, and more importantly, to strengthen the partnerships with our church and community leaders who will continue to promote the vision and the services of the justice system. This 3-day alternative justice service tour will engage schools, interact with communities, and encourage our churches to participate in the process of justice by increasing their knowledge of the justice services and interacting with the justice service to assist them. The format of the tour includes today's town hall meeting, or Justice Day in School, which is tomorrow at the St. Elizabeth at Black River High School in St. Elizabeth. And of course, we will join in worship with the Williamsfield Seventh-day Adventist Church on Saturday. The Social Justice Division of the ministry was formed in March 2023. Under the division are the Restorative Justice, Victim Services, and Child Diversion branches. These services were brought together to improve the efficiency of the and to increase the use of the services across the island. So I will just briefly run through what they are as a reminder to everyone. Restorative Justice is one of our flagship programs, which offers alternative ways of resolving conflicts with less or no interaction with the court system. Persons in conflict who are referred to or who approach the program are provided with the tools to peacefully resolve conflicts without going through the formal legal system. Child Diversion offers a second chance to our children between the ages of 12 and 17 who come in contact with or are in conflict with the law. Children are referred to the program through the courts or by the police. Child diversion helps these children by assessing their situation and then using a combination of interventions to get them back on track. Our victim services offers therapeutic interventions for victims of crime to help them heal from the traumatic experiences associated with or caused by the crime. So, for those of you who are here in St. Elizabeth, you can access these services by simply calling 888 Justice, or you can visit our Justice Center, which is located at 38 Court Drive if you're in need of our child diversion or restorative justice programs, or for our Victim Services Office, which is located at Shop 22, Jakes Plaza, Santa Cruz. I encourage all of you to make use of the services and to help the ministry to spread the word in your communities that justice is Fialawi. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shavans. Now, at this juncture in the program, we will hear from our other distinguished guests. Firstly, we'll hear from the Custos of St. Elizabeth, the Honorable Beryl Rochester, who will be followed by the Member of Parliament for St. Elizabeth Northeastern, Mr. Delroy Slowly. Please make them welcome, beginning with the Custos.
Mr. Archibald Gordon is here this evening, so he won't be on TVJ tonight. He asked me to make that announcement for him. Thank you so much. Honorable Minister of Justice, Honorable Delroy Chuck, Member of Parliament, Mr. Delroy Slowly, His Worship the Mayor of Black River, Councillor Solomon, Superintendent Minto, Councillor Samuels, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Justice, Grace Ann McFarlane, Ms. Jamie Ann Shavans, Principal Director of the Justice Department, other members of the MOJ team, CEO of the St. Elizabeth Municipal Corporation, Mr. Errol Liebert, members of the media, friends all. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right then. The MOJ team and I have been together all day, so I won't welcome them, but I will thank them for this initiative. We, on the behalf of the citizens of St. Elizabeth in this forum, it is good that we are here meeting in this format. Minister is seeking to ensure that all of us access justice. And I'd like to thank also the rest of the MOJ team for coming to share important information on how to promote justice to ensure peace and harmony for all of us. I certainly am honored to be part of this gathering where we have come together to discuss, share, and learn some of the actions necessary for creating a more just and equitable society for everyone. So let's, when we leave here, if we weren't doing it before, let's see to work together to build a community that values diversity and equality. Let's listen, share, and support each other in this journey towards social justice for all. Now, well, thank you all, but I'm going to kindly ask you to excuse me. I have to take my leave shortly. Minister of Justice and his team, well, mostly him, he has not yet shared the recipe for the Energizer batteries with me. So he has gone the whole day. I have a little more to go for the rest of the day. Have a good afternoon, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Costas, and we'd like to invite forward MP Slowly.
Very pleasant afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to welcome you all, traveling from far and near to our warm town of Santa Cruz. I just want to take this opportunity to especially greet my minister, Minister Delroy Chuck, our Justice Minister, one of the most passionate ministers that I've encountered in the ministry that he serves. Welcome to Santa Cruz, sir. I want to take the opportunity to greet our, okay, she has departed, our Costas. She did say that she was leaving a bit early. The security team, Superintendent Minto, Inspector Williams, and the rest of the team. I also want to take this opportunity to say warm greetings to the entire Justice Ministry who have journeyed down here to be with us. The staff of the Municipal Corporation. We have Mayor Solomon with us. We have our CEO, Mr. Liebert, with us. Welcome. To the media that's here with us today, we're happy to have you. And it's really a great opportunity for us to sit and share, to get ideas, and to leave here being more informed. And it's a real privilege of mine being here with you. I too will have to depart a little early, as I have 2 more engagements, Minister, right after this, so I can't be here for the duration of the entire evening's event. But one thing I must say is that we do appreciate the effort, the hard work that you've put into this ministry. And in fact, we are seeing great amount of fruits being reaped by your hard effort and your team. One of the, as earlier someone mentioned, as a flagship program, which is the Restorative Justice. That is one of the programs, to be honest with you, that I have a very deep respect and regard for. And one of the reasons is that we have seen escalation of certain data as it relates to crime and violence. And we do understand that there are a lot of it that emanates from domestic issues. And the kind of attention that you have drawn to it, Minister, I really want to commend you, because you have gone near and far. You have gone into the schools, you have gone into the churches, you have gone into the communities in terms of helping persons to be able to understand. Because the truth of the matter is that we are all brothers and sisters, one in Christ. And when you have that kind of approach, believe me, we have seen a significant improvement in terms of our data as it relates to crime and violence. Many of our serious crimes are trending down, because the truth of the matter is that many of these situations that escalate into serious crime and violence emanates out of the homes, emanate out of the community. You're talking about family members, you're talking about community members, you're talking about friends who know each other. And so when we can bring persons to the table to sit down and amicably resolve their difference, having an avenue by which they can express themselves, you understand, having an avenue that they can actually vent, it makes a great difference. And I just want to commend you for the hard work that you have put in. I want to commend you for the great passion that you have taken. I just want to say to you, sir, we appreciate and we value. We have seen how you have taken your time to go to the smallest of level to make sure the most minute places to ensure that this works the way that you have visioned it to work. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. I just want to welcome all of you here to Santa Cruz. It is my home, a place that I grew up, a place that I live, a place that I do business, a place that I do everything. Warm welcome to all of you. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MP Slowly. Now, the Ministry of Justice is promoting providing justice, transforming lives. In its promotion of alternative justice services, it seeks to assist Jamaicans resolve their conflicts and to give them an alternative to the formal justice system. You heard MP Slowly there speaking passionately of the change that that can make. The Social Justice Division, through its child diversion, restorative justice, and victim services branches, has been successful so far, but there is still a major need for information and education in our society. To address us now is the Minister of Justice, Energizer Bunny according to the custos, the Honorable Delroy Chuck, who will speak more on this.
Thank you very much, Archibald. MP Slowly, thank you for that commendation, and it's always good to be here in your parish. One of your predecessors, Roger Clark, used to say that one thing the government can do for Santa Cruz is to air condition the area. And I know why, because this is my third shirt for the day. Mayor of Black River, nice to have you, sir. Permanent Secretary, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, members of the security forces, it is a pleasure to be here. I've been here this morning. We're engaged in empowering our justice of the peace to be even better agents for justice services and information that they have to be able to assist the citizens of our country. I can tell you that our JPs in St. Elizabeth, they're very enthusiastic. Today, over 100 of them were there to be treated to some very good information on land, on the Administrator General's Department about estate planning and making their will, and also the National Identification Program, which is coming up very shortly. And believe me, they were very enthusiastic, and they now have a lot of information which we hope they will be able to assist the citizens of St. Elizabeth. Now, we're on this tour because we feel that justice services should be known, that it should be available, and it should be used by the citizens of this country. Every single Jamaican should feel that if they want justice, if they want to settle their disputes, and there's no one who doesn't have a dispute, sometimes with a brother or sister, sometimes with the wife, sometimes with neighbors. But the most important thing is there are methods to settle them that are available. We speak of restorative justice, we speak of mediation, we speak of victim services. Oftentimes, when people are abused or suffer from a criminal attack, they feel so frustrated. How do they respond to the attacker? Many of them will respond with violence. And what we're asking them, if you respond with violence, you escalate the problem, go to victim services, and victim services will counsel you and even try to get the offender to work with you and to go to restorative justice. So if there was a relationship before, the relationship can be healed. So we are on this mission from the Ministry of Justice to take these services, to explain it to the citizens of Jamaica, because we want it to be known in every nook and cranny. We are spreading the information in all the schools. We have done maybe over close to 400 already, and we want to explain it in over 1,000 schools, not only once, because there are several classrooms, but to the parents and to the students, and we want to explain it to the several thousand churches. We are in partnership with the churches. We have MOUs with all 13 groups of churches that we want to go to each church to be able to provide them with the information about justice services. At the end of the day, we don't want anywhere in Jamaica for Jamaicans to say they can't access justice. Right now, anyone who needs to access free legal advice, any information, they can call 888-JUSTICE, which is 888-587-8423. And immediately you can get to the operator, the toll-free operator, and get information as to how you can get some justice service to resolve whatever problem or disputes you have. Ladies and gentlemen, and those who are listening and or have joined us on social media, we have a problem with the delivery of services. The Jamaican people are not well served. At every level of our society, the service provided to the people are atrocious, and that is why we're saying we have justice services, and we want the people to know about it and to be able to access these services with ease. When you think of how the public sector or the private sector provides service, it is so weak, so poor, that the truth of the matter, Jamaica cannot move forward properly unless we improve the level of service provided to our people. Many of you will appreciate, just a little lesson here, that economic growth is about the production of goods and services. We're not providing enough goods, and the service we provide, we're not doing so adequately and efficiently. People waste so much time trying to get service. When you hear of the quick service restaurant, QSR, I often tell the owners of these businesses, stop calling it quick service restaurant. Call it slow service restaurants. Because when you go to any of these so-called quick service restaurants, you know them, you're driving or you're walking them, it takes at least half an hour to get served. There's no reason why any of these quick service restaurants should not provide the patty or the chicken or whatever soup within 5 minutes. It's the same when you go to the bank, long lines. But the worst one is the transportation service. Whether it is the buses or the taxis, the service is just absolutely poor. And Jamaica, if we are to move forward into a first world country, service at all levels must improve. And we're going to start out, our mission is to demonstrate that justice service can be first class. We are going to be the model to tell other ministries, other private sector people, you can do better. Improve your service and help Jamaica to become a first world country. We want the justice service to be first class, and I can tell you, we are heading there. I can say to you that at this moment, our justice system has never been better in our history. We are reducing the backlog in the courts. And why are we reducing the backlog in the court? The Chief Justice is doing a fantastic job. He wanted more judges. We increased the number of judges in the Court of Appeal from 7 to 13. He wanted more in the Supreme Court. We increased the number of judges in the Supreme Court from 30 to 42. He wanted more judges in the parish court. We increased the number of judges in the parish court from 50 to 71. So all the courts now, here in St. Elizabeth, you should have at least 3 parish court judges, maybe more in other parishes. And St. Elizabeth is doing a fantastic job in reducing the backlog. St. Elizabeth is actually #1 in terms of the reduction of backlog cases. And what it means is that it has really very few cases in backlog. When you go to the courts now in St. Elizabeth, the likelihood is that you will get your case resolved in 12 months. 90% of the cases across the country are now being resolved within 12 months. The parish courts are doing a fantastic job to ensure that people have their dispute resolved speedily. And that is how it should be. Before long, we want most of the cases to be resolved within 9 months, so people know when you go to court, you better be ready, because the judge is going to say, I am ready, we are going to try the case right now. And that is how it should be. You'll be amazed, though, you know. The vast majority of cases that come to the courts are traffic offenders. Do you know that close to 80% of the cases that come to the courts are traffic offenders? So Superintendent Minto, we are asking the police force to do a good job. You're doing a fantastic job in identifying and stopping the indiscipline that we have on the road. And I'm begging the taxi drivers, the bus drivers, all motorists, just obey the law. We don't want, we collect enough taxes. We don't want more taxes. What we want is discipline on the roads. And when you have crashes, as I heard happen today, the burden on the hospital system, the burden and disappointment to families is just not worth it. So I really call out to all motorists, especially those who are breaching the traffic code. Contain yourself. Respect the rules of the road, so that we can have less offenses and less matters coming to the courts. Because when you come to the court, it just means more burden on the court. Please engage in a certain amount of discipline. And the truth of the matter is that the courts are doing well, but a lot of cases are actually coming to the courts. And the less we have, the better. And that is why we are promoting these alternative justice services. We're asking people in dispute, before you rush to the court, go to the justice centers or call AAA Justice to find out how your matter could be better resolved without going to the courts. Eventually you may end up in the court. And when you go to the courts, if it is a minor matter, the judges are now referring you back to restorative justice, mediation, and victim services to see if your minor matter can be resolved, because the courts now see that these alternative services are successful. When they're referred to these alternative justice services, 80% of them are successful. So it's very important that we utilize them. The real challenge is, how do we get people to absorb the information, to get the information, and to use the services? So at the end of the day, we intend to keep going right across Jamaica, to engage the citizens, to let it be known, you don't have to take the law into your hand. Get help. See if you can resolve it without violence and abuse. Ease the work of the police. Ease the work of the courts. Avoid the various destructive behavior that put a burden on our hospital services. It is important, ladies and gentlemen, for Jamaica to start looking for peace and harmony with one another, and I know we can do it. Jamaica deserves a more peaceful place so that we can, in fact, improve the quality of life of our people. And I know we can do it. And to all of you here, and to all of us listening, let the change towards a better Jamaica start with each of us. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much, Minister Chuck, bringing some of the heat to St. Elizabeth. We look forward to this type of engagement with the Jamaican people that will result in a more peaceful Jamaica, with Jamaicans more equipped to solve their conflict. So ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to transition to part 2 of our program, where we'll hear from you, the St. Elizabethans. Before our question and answer segment, people from St. Elizabeth, I'll go with that. Before our question and answer segment, we have 3 short presentations, and we're going to be opening the floor for questions. We have one on estate planning presented by Alia Leith Palmer. She's Senior Legal Executive at the Administrator General's Department. We have Managing Conflict with RJ, which is Restorative Justice, presented by Simone Michel da Costa, Restorative Justice Parish Officer for St. Elizabeth. And we have Mediation and Expungement presented by Renee Oliphant, who is Senior Director in the Justice Policy and Analysis Division. We'll begin with Alia Leith Palmer, who will then take her seat afterwards. Please make her welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure for me to be here with you. It's not often I get to leave my regular location in Kingston and St. Andrew and St. Catherine to travel to this side. So I'll take the heat for a little bit. Right. So this afternoon, we want to engage you, and so my presentation will be very brief, just to outline the role of the Administrator General's Department and the Administrator General for Jamaica in estate administration, and also briefly touch on the process of will making and the importance of making a will. So the Office of the Administrator General for Jamaica was established in 1873. We are 151 years old this year, and we are proud of that history. We are also proud of the work that we do. We are mandated by law, that is the Administrator General, to administer estates of persons who die without a will, and there is a minor entitled to share in that estate. We will also act in cases where we have been appointed as executor under a valid will, or where a person has died leaving a will and the estate consists solely of personalty under $100,000. So no land, just personality, money, right, under $100,000. Where it is that the person is deceased and is not survived by any eligible beneficiaries or relatives to take a share in that estate, the estate is deemed to be bona vacantia and belongs to the Crown. So no eligible relatives under law. The Interstate Estates and Property Charges Act outline who would be eligible to take a share in an estate. If there are none of those persons left behind when an individual dies, the estate is deemed to be bona vacantia, so there's no owner for the assets, and it goes to the Crown. One of the most important reasons to make a will, because even if you have no lawful beneficiaries who can benefit from your estate on intestacy, I'm sure there might be an individual, an entity, a charity, a church, someone or some organization you might want to benefit from your assets. We will also act where the whereabouts of beneficiaries might be unknown, and so no grant of representation has been taken out, or where we have been ordered by the court to act in an estate. One of the greatest services that we offer presently since the amendment to our legislation in 2015 is that we are able to issue our own internal grants of administration. They are called Instrument of Administration. Once the estate is reported and all required documentation is provided, we can issue those grants within 3 months. And so we're able to administer estates much faster. Our aim is to ensure that we distribute what is left upon death to the beneficiaries as fast as possible. That's our aim. And so that is what that internal grant allows us to do. We don't have to go to the court to issue it. It is done internally. And so I move to the next aspect of my presentation, which is estate planning. Something that we are encouraging persons to do, particularly the making of a valid will. And what estate planning does, it allows you to put in place an arrangement as to what will happen to your assets upon your death. And this might take the form of the preparation of a will. It can be inter vivos transfers, that is transfer of property while you're alive. So you know you want X person to benefit from an asset, then you give that person the asset whilst you're alive. When you do it in a will, it's a testamentary transfer. So you can do transfers whilst you're alive. You can also ensure that you take out insurance for your credit facilities. You can put in place joint ownership of assets. So these are all tools of estate planning. So whilst the will is an important tool and we are encouraging you to do so, we want for you to appreciate that there are other actions you can take. So let me give you an example that is real. You have a mortgage, you have a car loan, you have credit card facilities, and yes, you have assets, but you never took out the insurance policies on those credit facilities. And you die, and then all of that liability, all those loans that weren't cleared off, the credit cards, they have to be cleared by your estate. And what it does, it eats away at the assets. So it could be that your liabilities can result in there not being any assets to distribute to your beneficiaries. So that's one of the reasons why we encourage life insurance policies as a part of your estate planning tools, as well as joint bank accounts, joint ownership of property. Another important action to take is seeking legal advice when it is that you are going to be creating a will, particularly if your asset base is large. Then you want to get guidance to ensure that it is done properly. Because you don't want to prepare a will only for those whom you have left behind to be told it's not valid because it wasn't executed properly. So I will skip through to the important aspects that I want for you to capture from this presentation, and that is, what is a will? A will is a written document, can be computer, handwritten by pen, braille. So if the person is visually impaired, they can also prepare a will. It will not take effect until you die. And there is a concept or a belief by a lot of persons that once you make a will, you're planning to die or sleep off in the night or die tomorrow or die soon. Not so. A will doesn't take effect until you die, and that could be 30, 50 years from now. And the great features of a will is that you can change it, it can be revoked. If things change in your asset base, you can go and write a new will. And the will that is later in time is what will be given effect to. And it is valid even if it is not registered at the Island Records Office. So we want to encourage you from the Administrator General's Department to make your will. It must be signed at the foot by the testator, that is you, the person making it, and witnessed by 2 witnesses in their joint presence. You must sign in their joint presence or point out your signature in their joint presence. So as I close this brief presentation, we want to just let you know where our office is located. We are at 12 Ocean Boulevard, downtown Kingston, and our website is agd.gov.jm. All this information and more relevant forms to assist you in preparing your will and reporting a death to our department is on our website. Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. On now to our second presentation, I'd like to invite forward the RJ Parish Officer for St. Elizabeth, Simone Mitchell da Costa.
Good afternoon. afternoon, everyone. I acknowledge and adopt all the previously established protocols. But before I go into my very serious presentation, which is on conflict, which is something hard, I'd love my fellow parishioners to help me, because somebody asked me earlier, what do you call yourselves, sainties? And I had to think for a minute because I wasn't quite sure. I don't know if you could help me. I know Saint Elizabethans is a mouthful. So when they say you call yourselves sainties, I had to think for a minute. And I think somebody helped us out and said we're called saints. I'm not sure, so that sounds like a good one that we can adopt. So I am speaking to you this afternoon about managing conflicts with restorative justice. Now, restorative justice is a mouthful. Just yesterday, I called an office PS at headquarters and introduced myself. My name is Simone Mitchell da Costa, by the way. And I said, Simone Mitchell da Costa, the Parish Restorative Justice Officer for St. Elizabeth. And the person said, you survived that. That was a mouthful. And I said, I actually did. So restorative justice, you may not remember it very well, but you ought to remember RJ. And we use that quite formally, and it's very quick and easy to remember. So if I am through and you don't remember what I am about, as long as you remember RJ, you're good. So conflicts are very hard. They're hard in the moment when they happen or when they're happening. But we generally don't understand how hard they are afterwards, especially if we are conscious enough to be able to reflect on our own actions. And I say, if we are conscious enough to reflect on our own actions. And that's what we actually do at Restorative Justice. We bring the persons who are involved in a conflict together to work out a solution or work out what we call the aftermath, what is left. Sometimes the dust is there, sometimes the dust is not settled, sometimes the dust takes a very, very long time to settle. So we actually help those persons to figure out how do we move from this harmful situation. And the process is so flexible that it actually involves other persons who are not involved in the conflict, primary persons who are not involved. So there are other persons who may be harmed or hurt or affected in other ways, and those persons are included in the process to help everybody to come to a more positive outcome. Now, RJ started in Jamaica around about 2008. So we've been around in Jamaica for a very, very long time. But journeys are not always very easy. Sometimes they are very hard. And after starting in 2008, slow developments took place. And then we formalized restorative justice in 2016. In 2016. But then we have different branches island-wide. However, we were welcomed to our beautiful parish in 2019. So we have been in existence in Santa Cruz at 38 Coke Drive, that's behind the courthouse and the police station, since 2018. We have been doing tremendous work in the parish. You heard the minister say that St. Elizabeth currently is doing very well in the courts, because when RJ is able to happen, it gives the persons in the courts more time to deal with more serious matters. So with the matters that RJ look at, some of the matters I call them me neighbor mosquito bite me kind of matters, though we deal with a lot more serious issues, and though it may be just your neighbor's mosquito that bit you, it doesn't really say how harmful or how hurt you are. because feelings are very important and they make up a huge aspect of how we deal with issues in restorative justice. But just to simplify things as I wrap up, to just explain to you in a very, very simple way what RJ is, I'll tell you an experience I had of two children who were playing. They were in the middle of a room and something happened between them. I'm not quite sure what happened, but whatever it is that happened was serious enough to cause them to separate. So they're vexed. They separated. So they separated from each other. So they stayed like that for a little while, and one child went over to the next child. Probably that child got lonely or bored and went up to the child and stretched out her hand and said, "Lick me back." And the other child hit her back, and all was well with the world. And that's what we do in RJ. We don't hit. Excuse me. So we don't hit, but we allow persons the opportunity to sit down, talk, resolve, repair. They come up with whatever it is their solution is. And they believe that their hurt or harm is understood or valued. And that is very important to persons who are going through difficult conflicts. What we have been doing in the parish has been very impactful. And I'll give you a very quick testimonial from one of our successful meetings that we had. So you would have heard Miss Lilith Palmer speak about estate planning. And you may know that in the parish of St. Elizabeth, there is little or no estate planning. So we got this matter from court, whereby a patriarch, a man, died and left property for all his 13 children. And each of them was to get a house lot. I don't know, Mr. Liebert probably can tell me how much square of land is a house lot. I'm not quite sure. But enough to build a house on. So it just happened that one of the child ended up with 2 house lots. And it came to court, and it was in court for over 2 years, what we call in the Ministry of Justice properly on as a backlog matter. Came to us a couple times, went back to court, came to us. Maybe the court was perceptive and thought that this matter should be settled at restorative justice because it came 3 times. On the 3rd time, we had an agreement. We had an agreement, but even while we had the agreement, I wasn't sure whether or not it was a real agreement or the persons got tired or whatever it is that was happening, I wasn't quite sure. So an agreement was had, and our process afterwards is that we pass around the document that each person signs. Even then I wasn't quite sure. But you're in a space and you're trying to feel out the situation, you know what I mean? Not saying anything, but assessing quietly. Until one of the relatives from one side, who never spoke for over 10 years, said to the niece on the other side, and I'm not using the real names here now, said, "Sue, so when you go give mama one granny?" And in my mind, in that moment, I knew that justice had healed the family that were apart for over a decade. So, ladies and gentlemen, I implore you to tell your neighbors, your friends, your relatives about RJ, Restorative Justice. We are located at 38 Coke Drive in Santa Cruz. We look forward to your referrals because we want a parish that is peaceful and harmonious. Thank you very much.
And for our third presentation, I'd like to invite forward Renee Oliphant, Senior Director in the Justice Policy and Analysis Division.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, all protocols observed. My name is Renee Oliphant, and I'm going to be talking to you about two items. Expungement, which is expungement of a criminal record, and also mediation. Minister would have mentioned the fact that the Ministry of Justice is interested in allowing persons to access justice. For us, accessing justice is where, for example, you are able to deal with your matter quickly. Mediation is one such option. Really what it is, it allows two persons who are having a dispute, to actually sit at a table, have a neutral third party between them, and they are able to sit down and talk it out. So instead of arguing and having all this, tensions and other things, we as individuals, for example, me and my brother, would be able to sit down at that table, and this neutral third party assists us. What is the benefit of mediation? A lot of persons, even if you haven't had to go to court yourself, you know persons who have been having mention dates over and over and over again, 2 years, 3 years. Mediation, on average, is resolved at a maximum of 90 days. In many instances, we see the matters being resolved within 30 days of those individuals coming together. And the success rate is good, based on an informal survey that we had done within the ministry. Between 75 to 85% success rates feeding out of mediation. So we want to encourage persons to engage with it. Many instances when you have to go to court, you have to hire a lawyer. Mediation is much cheaper. And I say this, I'm an attorney by training, but it is a much cheaper route. And many persons get very antsy when they have to be paying these huge lawyer fees. So use mediation as a means of resolving your disputes. Encourage your community, encourage your co-workers. It can be, if you need further information, just contact the ministry or the Dispute Resolution Foundation of Jamaica, and we'll be able to give you the information. Right now, the Ministry of Justice has been funding, because it's not free. There's a small fee, but the Ministry of Justice, through the intervention of our minister, has been funding it for persons who really cannot afford it. So if you're interested and you have a matter before the courts, ask them to send it to mediation, depending on the matter, usually civil matters, and we will treat with it and pay the bill for you. Now, expungement is the other matter that has the ability to change people's lives. Many persons, when you think of expungement, really what it is, and you'll see from the agenda, is I'm just going to run through the reasons for expungement and also accessing the information related to expungement. What is expungement? It's the process by which certain criminal records are removed from your record. So if, for example, and there are many persons in the society, you'd be amazed how many persons we see on road shows like this, that in their youth, they made a mistake, right? And this mistake is haunting them for years. And when I say years, sometimes we see like the person 60, 70 years old, one minor matter hanging over their head like Damocles' sword, right? So what it allows you to do is to remove, and it's not all, actually, let me just point out, it's not all offenses that can be expunged or wiped off your record, but it gives you an opportunity, if you fall into that category of offenses, to do it. And it is life-changing. To be eligible for expungement, there are certain things. For example, if you had a non-custodial sentence, which is that you weren't taken into custody, or your term of imprisonment was less than 5 years, and in instances where you have exhausted what we call this a rehabilitation period, and I'll just allow you to look on, if the slide would move. All right, so the rehabilitation period, yes, there we go. The rehabilitation period is different for the types of offenses. So on average, what they define the period as is a person must wait. So you can't, let's say for example, you were convicted on an offense last year. You have to wait a little time before you can apply for expungement. And the term ranges on average from 3 years to 10 years, and it depends on the kind of penalty that would have been imposed by the court. It is calculated from the date of the expiration of the term of imprisonment in the case of your custodial sentences, and in other cases on the satisfaction of the court sentence. Basically, when the court sentence is complete. Many persons, really what you want to know is, how can I erase my criminal record? And how that is done, you have to submit an application. It is done in duplicate, and there are certain documents. Even though it's not very clear on this, I'll just read them out to you. So, your application form has the name, your addresses, your contact number of 2 referees. So this is somebody who we will call to say, yes, Renee Oliphant has been, I know her, I've known her for 10 years, and she's a decent person. You get 2 letters of recommendation from your referees, and also you have to have the name and contact of 2 other persons who can be contacted on your behalf. We have to have your fingerprint impressions. And so what that requires in many instances is that you go to tax office, you pay $3,000, you get your fingerprint receipt, which also has to be submitted, and all of this documentation is sent to the Criminal Records Office. Because it's not just the Ministry of Justice who is involved in this process, we have to get that criminal record from the Criminal Records Office. So what do? You submit the application with all of the supporting documents. You go to, and that includes that receipt from tax office, and then we send that documentation on to the Criminal Records Office. There is a Criminal Records Board, what we call the expungement board, and they make the decision based on all of the factors in your case as to whether you can expunge. Why we encourage persons to engage with the process, we're not saying that everybody will be successful, but you never will know. And so we're encouraging persons to take that opportunity because there are multiple benefits. Many persons can't get a job. A lot of times we see persons coming in when they want to migrate or their families are filing for them. They want to just travel and they have this criminal record, and so they don't have this ability to get that visa to travel. And sometimes you really just want to have this clean record because you just want to be able to process and move on with your life. So I want to encourage you, even if you don't have a record, if you know somebody who does, please feel free to contact the Ministry of Justice and get that ball rolling. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just please stay with us because we're moving right now into the short panel discussion, and I'd also like to invite the 2 presenters who were here before to come forward. And as I do that, I'd like to remind you that there are opportunities to ask questions. In fact, this section is all about asking questions. There are microphones which are placed in the aisles, and they can be accessed for you to ask your questions. If you know who you want to ask your question of, please state their name before you ask your question. Keep the question short, about 30 seconds, and please return to your seat as soon as you complete your question so we can have a nice flow going on. No need to be afraid of anybody. You can ask any question you want to ask. You can ask questions of them. There's also the team here from the Ministry of Justice overall. If there's anything that you want to find out, now's the time. In fact, Minister is here, so Minister can answer questions as well. We're open to questions. So again, you can use a microphone right there in the center to ask questions. But as we are preparing for this segment, I just want to kick the ball, get it running with one question overall in relation to, there's a question? No, it's the other one. One second. So let's just start with one question quickly on this matter of Thank you. On this matter of estate planning, when you said that, oh yes, we have 2 more members that can take part in the panel. As a matter of fact, I'd like to invite forward Legal Aid Council Executive Director Diane Watson, as well as Superintendent Coolidge Minto, who is head of the St. Elizabeth Police Division. So we have another range of persons who can answer questions as well. Just make them welcome. So if you have any questions, there's one in the audience, please. Go ahead. 1 second, we're just going to have someone come and check that microphone very quickly for you.
Good evening, everyone. My question is directed to the lady who just presented. I didn't quite catch her name. Is the process for expungement the same for someone in Jamaica who committed that offense abroad? Okay, so there is a process, and when you say that they committed an offense abroad, is it that after was expunged, is that jurisdiction or just?
No.
Okay.
She wanted to have it expunged, but I'm a justice of the peace.
Yes.
She came to me for advice, and I pointed her to the Ministry of Justice. And she's going through the process, but I didn't quite follow up with her, so I wanted the information for myself. I wasn't able to continue the session today, so I'd like to know.
Okay.
As far as I know, she served her time. She had the option to be deported or pay a fine, and she refused to pay the fine, so she came home. So quite a bit of time has elapsed, more than 10 years, I think.
Yes.
And she wanted to have the matter expunged.
Okay, in many instances we say where persons would have had their offense expunged from their criminal record in the foreign jurisdiction, they'd want to have that done also stricken from the record in Jamaica. You're saying, based on your understanding, that she has not gone through that process?
No.
Okay.
I don't think she has gone through the process overseas.
Okay.
But it's showing up here.
Yes.
And she'd like to have
So
it
usually what we
expunged.
do is that there is a requirement for the, and it's also dependent on the type of offense that the individual would have committed. You didn't point that out, but what we find is that the expungement at the local level is done once the matter has been expunged abroad, and really what they do is they want to clear the record here. It's hard to give a definitive statement to you because we don't have the full details in terms of her matter.
It's just that I want to be clear on the process.
Okay, so the application process is the submission of the application form, completion of the application form, the payments through the tax office, submission of the information in relation to her referees and two persons who can speak to her, and then we will start the process. But again, the degree to which she might be successful is dependent on what we're looking at in terms of expungement.
Okay.
Yes. There
Thank
is
you.
a process that once you've gone through the process of applying on 2 occasions, your application would have been refused by the board. There is also a process of appeal through the minister, but it does take a while to go through that process.
Okay, thank you very much.
Again, if you have questions, one more question here.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Still on the matter of expungement.
It's expungement, yes.
Expungement, which is
Yes.
wiping your record clean.
Wiping your criminal record clean, yes.
All right. After the process of expungement, are these persons assisted in a way that they can be integrated back into the system in terms of the world of work?
What expungement allows you to is that your record is wiped clean. So if, for example, you're applying for a job and you do have to get a criminal record from the Criminal Records Office, there's nothing there. So even though the Ministry of Justice may not necessarily be allowing you to or facilitating you going back in, by assisting you in getting your record clean, you're really being given another chance to go back out into the world of work. And it literally, in many instances, is a new start for many persons because they don't have to worry about the fact that their potential employer is going to see what they did 20 years or 10 or 15 years ago. All right, so it may not be a direct benefit, but there's an indirect benefit to getting your criminal record wiped clean.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
On that matter, a question here? Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen and officer.
Just come a little closer, ma'am, to the microphone. Yes.
Good evening, officers and gentlemen. Another night greeting in Jesus' name. I have a piece of land around there where I'm living for many years in Brighton. One neighbor give me hell around there with a piece of land, so I want to know what I can do. My mother did left Aspera land, it's family land. My uncle does sell out his share for $50 in a 3 days time to 3 persons, and I call their name. And then the person line up here, the neighbor for me. So I want to know what I can do. $50. And I lift down all my fence around it.
So I think this is an estate planning question. It's about somebody, no? Land matter.
Okay, good afternoon. So we are sitting here on the panel trying to figure which one of us is best to answer. So it's a legal question, as if I understand you correctly, you're on a piece of land and your neighbor is giving you some trouble.
Yeah.
As it relates to you living on that land.
Okay.
Right. So without knowing all the details, it might be hard to guide you. So
Because
what I would want to say to you though, it depends on how long you have been living on the land. The Lord does provide that after 12 years, undisturbed, exercising rights of ownership,
the
that
ownership.
you have acquired the land by adverse possession. You could also speak to an attorney if it's a situation where the neighbor is being a nuisance or is abusive, to see how you can get redress, and then allow my other panelists to add some more to that.
And this is in relation to legal services.
It's
Yes.
legal services. So the mobile justice unit is outside and there's a lawyer in the bus who can assist you. So you can give her all the details and she'll tell you more about what to do in relation to that matter.
God bless you.
The big nice bus outside there, you can talk to her.
On that point, let's just talk a little bit about the mobile service and what's available. Is this free?
It is absolutely free. The mobile justice unit service, it's a lovely bus donated by the Canadians, where we have offices on the bus, we have lawyers on the bus, and we give free legal advice to anyone who needs it on any matter. So the bus is here, and we are also here we're in Santa Cruz every third Thursday at the Restorative Justice Center. So anyone who needs information, legal information, you can go to the Justice Center and we'll be there.
So
every third Thursday.
It's free legal information, but if I also now want to, if like the lady who showed up and was asking that question before, if it becomes a matter that requires that I go to court, will you take me to court also for free?
So for civil legal aid, we're not yet assigning attorneys for that, not just now. But, I mean, we can still offer them some form of guidance, but for now, we're not yet assigning attorneys in those matters. But we've been assisting persons in St. Elizabeth in court with civil matters. The judge here has asked us to assist with a few matters, and we have been assisting some persons.
All right, and I want to distinguish between civil matters and criminal matters. When you talk about criminal matters, we're talking about?
I'm talking about matters where persons are arrested or detained, charged by the police, and taken to court. A civil matter now is where an individual sues another person, or if you have a case against another person. So the criminal matter is where the state lock you up. The civil matter is where there's one party wants to bring an action against another party.
All right, thank you. If there are any other questions, again, you can go to the microphone. You can ask any question. There are, however, on the matter of legal aid, services that you provide. After this question, we'll get back to that.
Good afternoon. I'm going to ask Superintendent Minto and Security Minister, Mr. Delroy Trump.
Justice Minister.
Justice Minister. Sir, I work with the police force for 12 years. District Constable got sick on the job. I have to go home to recuperate my health, I was forced to go home. I served 12 years. I was told I will be paid every month. And up to now, I have not received $1. Me not eat from Tuesday, hungry heart, but me a hold on and me a bear it because me know the best is yet to come. Am I entitled to some funds for my 12 years with the government, sir?
Is she entitled to? She was working with an organization with the government for 12 years.
12 years. I got nerve shock. I couldn't put food to my mouth after eat like dog. Stroke, can't walk, can't talk, as you hear. 4 blood vessels burst in my head. Rush from Black River to KPH, pronounced dead. At the morgue on dead fridge for 2 days. I hear God call me and tell me it is not yet my time. I have some unfinished job to do and I have to do it. So I am here holding on to faith and to God.
Right, so good evening everybody. Thank you, Madame, for sharing your story and very touching to hear. Certainly as you speak, I hear a lot of legal issues coming out. Difficult to address it here publicly, but you did say you work as a district constable, and so I will speak with you post this event and see if I can point you. We do have an HR department, and certainly I wouldn't want to go too much into it because I don't know all the facts, but I will speak with you after and see if I can point you to somebody that you can speak with. I think one of the other panels also wants to make a comment.
Yes, so I'm also indicating too that you two could go and give the details on the bus to the attorney on the bus, and we'll be able to advise you. We'll be able to check it out for you and get back in touch with you with some information. So you can go to the bus to get the information.
So they're saying, Superintendent Minto is saying he'll speak with you afterwards, and Ms. Watson is directing you to the bus because that sounds like you need a little bit of legal advice as well.
Commissioner Anthony Anderson instructed me to get a lawyer, which is now on way.
To get an attorney?
He took up the case.
Okay. Thank you. I certainly hear the emotion in your voice and what you're saying. But I think because of the specific nature of your complaint, you need to talk to somebody on very directly, probably starting with the boss, just that you can have a sense of what. Again, we're welcoming questions. If you have any questions, you can get to the microphone. I was saying, oh yes, sir, please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I would just like to highlight a particular concern that has been in abeyance for over 23 years. I have leased a piece of land from the parish council, and after 7 years, I asked them to sell me the land. They took me decision at a meeting and wrote to me explaining their decision, the amount that they prepared to sell the land for, how much I must pay on it, and then I went 2 occasions to make a deposit to tie the bargain, and they refused to take the money. 14 years after, they went and they increased the lease by over 1,460%. I objected to it because I said, okay, I asked you to sell me the land. You agreed to sell. You give me in writing. They subdivide the land. They put it on tax roll. They submit me tax obligation, I pay taxes for the land. And yet they fail to come up with a sales agreement. At the moment, I am in court from over last year, February, it has been throwing up. I'm supposed to return to court on Tuesday. But hearing that the matter can be taken from court to mediation, I'm asking this question if it is practical to have the matter taken. Because honestly, I paid, contracted a firm, a lawyer. They sent me a representative. And the first occasion, it was actually when court has almost halfway through before he appeared. He never even have a dialogue with me. When the second court date come, we get telephone call that he has motor vehicle trouble, he couldn't be there. I haven't been communicated then. Only to hear when they send me, the court date set for the 3rd of June. I get information from their office say it is the 3rd of July, and claiming that they get information through St. Catherine Court's office from the St. Elizabeth Court office. I don't know how they come about that. Anyhow, when the 3rd of June come, the lawyer didn't turn up. So right now it's like I am in a limbo, whether I'm being represented or not. So, and then now, the matter, we always call up in Black River. It now turn over to Santa Cruz. This judge say he's the first he's hearing about it. But honestly, there are some prejudicial communication taking place between their officers and the judge, which I don't have access to.
Well, let's not suggest that.
All right.
Yes.
Anyhow, so what I am saying, sir, to put myself, because what is actually happening, all they are caring about is to get their money, and I am not being given any indication as to whether they are prepared to complete the sales action.
I certainly hear your frustration and the time that you have spent in court and the inconvenience.
The point is that from the very letter I wrote to them, asking them to release me the land, I said I would be putting up a permanent building. And I have built on the place. They asked me to submit blueprint for the land. I submitted to them. When I submit the blueprint, the superintendent who tell me to submit the drawing, that they must not take any money from. They take the plan, but they don't take any money from it.
One second, sir. I hear and I understand your frustration. Right. But you're really asking whether this is something that can be dealt with in mediation.
Yes.
Let me just have her address that so that you can get some of the answers and perhaps deal with the frustration you're feeling.
All right.
Cool. Okay, it sounds like this could be a matter that could be referred to mediation. What I would point out is that mediation is a voluntary process. So you are willing, but the other party also has to be willing.
Well,
what I would suggest to you is to speak to, you said the matter would have been transferred to Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
To speak to the clerk of courts to indicate that you would be willing, and then have him or her speak to the representative from the municipal corporation.
Yeah.
If that is so, then the matter can be referred to mediation.
Okay.
And hopefully you'll be able to get some sort of resolution through that mechanism.
All right.
So I would suggest you start with the clerk of courts.
Yeah.
But just remembering that it has to be a voluntary, it's a voluntary process, and so the municipal corporation would also have to agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
If there are any other questions, you can come to the microphone and ask your questions. No? As well? I was asking earlier, any other questions? I was asking earlier, while we wait for people to gather their thoughts and ask more questions, I was asking earlier about the types of services which are offered by Legal Aid for free. Yes.
So we do have, when persons are arrested or detained, once you get arrested or detained, we will send you a lawyer, and there's no application process for that. We call that lawyer duty counsel. That service is completely free. We also do assign attorneys for court. If you have a criminal matter in court, we assign an attorney. For that service, we do a means test. So if you can make a contribution to your defense, then you can make a contribution. But if you cannot, you still get an attorney to assist you with your case. And of course, we already spoke about the mobile unit. That service is completely free. And we give legal advice, as you can hear, on any matter. any legal issue.
Any legal issues. So even you know, two people were talking before. On every Thursday, you say, every third Thursday.
Third Thursday, we're here in Santa Cruz.
You can get information. We're going to be wrapping up the discussion in a short space of time. So if you have questions, now is the point to ask them. We want to, as we head into that wrap up, just remind persons that if you haven't registered, first of all, please register. We want to know, you know, just to see the turnout and to get a sense of what you felt about the event. There are also evaluation forms. That we're asking you to sign. Evaluation form really means that we want to know how you think the session went and how we can improve, because essentially we're trying to serve you. So therefore, we want to know how you think we can improve, how we think the service can be done better. I wanted to sort of talk a little bit as we close a little bit. Well, I have one question in relation to the will. I don't know if people are brave enough to raise their hands if you have a will. All right, so not a lot of people in the room. So if you don't have a will and you want to get the information about what to do, can I come to your office and get it? Is this free information? Where do I get information?
So we don't offer that service in terms of will preparation and advice, but if you do come and ask the question, we will answer. Our website also has a will form that you can download and print. That will form comes with instructions as to how to fill out the will to ensure it is valid and properly executed. On the outside, we have a booth with a representative. We have will forms. We also have pamphlets that will assist persons in terms of estate planning. So I want persons to appreciate that a will is an important but simple document, not hard to create, just requires the testator to identify him or herself.
The person writing the will.
That's testator is the person writing the will. So identify yourself, name, address, occupation, indicate who you're giving the gift to and what the gift is, and be as specific as possible. Ensure that the will is witnessed by two witnesses jointly, so you sign in their joint presence or point out your signature in their joint presence, and you have a valid will.
And you are reinforcing during your presentation this idea. I'm coming to you, sir. This idea that you want to ensure that it's valid. So if I download the form and follow through your instructions, and then I want to find out that it's valid and I want to check with a lawyer, then I can come to the legal aid, the mobile bus that's provided by the legal aid service. So all of the services are provided. You can both get information, you can get the form, you can get a sense of how to complete the form, and then you can have it checked for free by the legal aid service. All right, there's a question. Sir, please go ahead.
All right, good evening, everyone. This one is for Ms. DaCosta, restorative justice. I'm just wondering, how effective is the program? For example, how many cases do you have currently, and like what's the amount of new cases that come in on a particular basis, like a monthly, quarterly, yearly basis? And what's the turnaround time in terms of having, question too long, sorry.
Okay, so on a yearly, thank you for your question, sir. On a yearly basis, we receive around 200 cases in the parish of St. Elizabeth. And we receive our cases mostly from the court. Out of that 200, 80% would be coming from the court, and the rest from the police or from community members or from persons themselves who are involved in conflict, who want support and assistance in helping to get a solution.
Yeah.
The other part of your question was?
Like what percentages of these cases that get resolved at that level? Like when they come to that level?
Okay. Thank you. So nationally in Jamaica, we have a success rate of 90%.
So 9 out of 10.
Out of every 10 cases or 10 meetings that we have, 9 are successful. But I'm going to break it down even a little further to say that for the parish of St. Elizabeth, our success rate is 80%. So out of every 10 cases, meetings we have, 8 are successful.
All right, thank you. Sounds
so
good.
that is what the impact is like.
And also impact in terms of time.
As it concerns the time turnaround, you mean for the meeting itself? So when we receive if we receive a referral today, I can hazard a guess, depending on how frequently our cases or how frequently conflicts are happening in the community, you may get a meeting next week Tuesday or next week Thursday.
No, wow, that's a very quick turnaround. No, the Ministry of Justice and the justice system is one part of the justice system, I should say, but we also have the police as part of the justice system as well. And I wanted to just sort of bring in, as we close, Superintendent Coleridge Minter here and ask the kind of impact he's been seeing of these sort of different kinds of services, this alternative to the traditional justice system.
Right, thank you. So we work very closely with the restorative justice arm in St. Elizabeth. In fact, a number of our what we call widely publicized meetings or stakeholder meetings, we invite them and they're part of those meetings and they share presentations in various communities. One of the things that we also do is from our office, we make recommendations to persons. A number of, and Minister St. Elizabeth does have a number of land dispute cases, quite a bit of them. And quite often, persons come to the police station thinking that it is a police matter that we can treat with. And so in those cases, we make the referrals to restorative because of the conflict that exists. And, you know, in our world, we see where a land dispute can lead to death in some cases. And so we don't ignore it because we say it's a civil matter. We still refer to restorative justice. We refer to the justices of the peace in the area, and oftentimes we call our own community safety and security officers. If I share with you, just a little information. St. Elizabeth recorded 18 murders since the start of the year. Of that 18 murders, 41% of them was as a result of conflict, arguments. Another 12% robbery, 18% reprisal, revenge, lots of scamming, 12%, domestic, 12%. So when we do the attribution, the largest percentage of murders that we have came out of arguments of conflict. And therefore, the need for, Minister, more of this promotion so that the entire parish knows of this and utilize the services of restorative justice is very important. My final thought is, and I heard the minister spoke earlier, we have in this parish, sir, and I shared it earlier today at the parish council, but really asking our citizens and persons who traverse the road to slow down, to drive within the ambits of the law. Last year, this time, we issued 5,043 tickets. This year, for the 6-month period, we issued 18,400 and 2 tickets. So we're doing a lot of enforcement, and I agree with the minister that a lot of the cases that are in the parish courts are really traffic offenses. What we want to do is to save lives. We want you to slow down. We want you to have the vehicles properly insured and registered and fit for the roadway. We arrested last year 385 persons up to this time last year. But this year, we have arrested 547. Again, it shows you the increase in terms of... So St. Elizabeth is, and I heard the minister, is leading the country as it relates to the backlog in our courts. And we want it to remain that way. And so we encourage our parishes, our citizens, drive within the rules of the road. And for your safety, in terms of fatalities, last year this time we were at 21 fatalities. This year, up to last night, we were at 16. So we were below fatalities. But this morning, unfortunately, we had an unfortunate crash along the Fonthill Main Road, bringing our numbers to 17. The driver died. But here we have a 15-seater carrying 19 lives. 19. We continue to ask, Minister, especially our public transportation operators, carry the required number of persons that the vehicles are licensed to carry. And so, as we wrap up the session, my appeal to persons in the parish, persons across Jamaica, to ensure that you are wearing your safety gear. And I won't even go into the motorcyclists, which is another set of data, but we certainly have an increased number of motorcyclists that we have taken off the road, and for their own safety, we're saying to them, wear a safety gear. And they refuse to do that, so we do the enforcement in terms of prosecution.
And overall, we want to understand this as not just an issue of that what you do impacts you in other ways as well, because it means that the police are going to be involved in other matters. It means greater demand on services like the use of police vehicles, and it means when you go to the hospital as well, if you have an elective surgery, etc., it may need to be postponed because you have road accidents. So we want everyone to understand that it's not somebody else's problem. At the end of the day, we're the ones who live in our homes and in our communities, and our actions not just impact other people, they really very much impact the services that we get. So by being better sort of citizens, we can improve overall. There's one more question. I'm just going to allow him to ask the question since he's here.
Good evening, Superintendent Minto. I'm an educator. And when you talk about accident on the road, we are noticing that our school buses are overloaded. I was driving behind one coming from school one day, and the doctor on the bus, or the doctors, because it's some little careless boys, them just take off of the road, and it's among our girls and our boys. And Superintendent, I was really mad, and as a justice of the peace, after the next day, I went to the driver, and I let the owner of the bus know that, look here, it cannot continue like this. The doctors were just off the bus, kicking the foot off, and a lot of things were happening, and they're overloading the bus. And I know that police officers have seen these buses overload, and many of them pay a blind eye to it. The other problem we're having, Superintendent, I don't know, when students is sent home from school and they have a fight on the road and the police officer catch them and take them to the office or the police station, don't they have a right to call in the parents and let the parents come for them or something and sit and talk with the parents? Because if we don't bend the tree from its young, they're going to continue to break rules in the country, and that is how the crime will continue to yes. Because what? They are not adhering by rules. And we have to just show these students that they are young, yes, but they must know that the consequences for their action must be felt. Because if they don't do that now, they're coming right into society and continue to make havoc.
All right, final question, Superintendent.
Right. Yeah, I really hear the passion in his comments. The bus this morning was not a bus transporting students, it was transporting adults, and except for one minor child, but it was overloaded. So the problem is not just with those carrying students. It is a widespread problem that we have to correct in terms of behavior. There is no doubt, sir, that if this data I shared with you is anything to go by, that we are not turning a blind eye. We prosecuted 18,000 traffic breaches in 6 months in St. Elizabeth alone. So we're not turning a blind eye. Certainly we won't see everybody. We can't be everywhere. And that's why the individual responsibility, and I saw someone from the National Parenting Commission here today, that we have to continue this engagement with our educators, with our parents, with our community members. I see the political representatives, so that this approach that we take to correcting this ill is not just left to one institution, but it is a joint up approach in saying there's a problem and we all have to treat with the problem. But we are doing enforcement, and this data is indicative of it. We need to do more. I want to suggest that all of us need to do more.
All right, thank you very much, Superintendent Minton. I'd also like to thank the other panelists as well. And ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this evening's proceedings. We want to thank the citizens of St. Elizabeth, the Saints, for coming out and interacting with the Ministry of Justice. And we want to thank the exhibitors as well who are here. Special thanks to our panelists as well as our presenters. And please share what you have learned with your community members, and remember that you can contact the Ministry of Justice via the toll-free 888-JUSTICE. Again, it's 888-JUSTICE. That's 888-587-8423. Easy to remember, 888-JUSTICE. You can email. The Minister was very passionate when he was talking about it earlier. So it's email customer.service@moj.gov.jm, and you can follow the Ministry of Justice as well on social media at MOJOfficialJM on Instagram, on X, on Facebook, as well as on YouTube. So again, thank you everyone for showing up this evening. As we close, I want to remind you that at the end, that Nestle, through their brand Maggie, has provided some items for free at the information booth. I'm Archibald Gordon. Thank you so much for joining us, and take care. And again, folks, we're asking you to complete evaluation forms. These are really, really important. Really important to complete the evaluation forms and hand them out. Just leave them at the registration desk. And again, Ministry of Justice team members are around. You can walk up and ask questions. If you didn't want to ask them here, you can walk up and ask anybody a question. They're willing and eager to help.